you've achieved so much tired and run down and exhausted.
Mm,
Imagine what you could do if you were well rested.
that's
And
good.
I did all of that with no energy, no help,
Confused.
no space, no time, delirious, brain fog, all of the things that iron and vitamin D, I just, but you did it.
Yeah.
What else could you do? Healthy, healed, and well rested. Like,
Mhm.
it's not rest isn't a luxury, it's a wellness practice.
Thank you for watching Stacy Speaks Hope. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. To schedule a free coaching call, the link is in the description. Welcome back to Stacy Speaks Hope. Another amazing guest has agreed to join us today. We are so blessed to have Gwendolyn Althea, a professional communicator who now uses her skills as the founder of Well Rested Yogi to help her community understand the necessity of rest and believes it's the number one success strategy. She teaches yoga and leads meditation and sound healing sessions. Welcome, Gwendolyn.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So, today, as always, Gwendolyn, what do you remember? What do you know? What can you tell us about your little girl?
The little Gwendolyn was very quiet, soft spoken,
Hmm.
with a lot of creative ideas, just always just swirling around in her mind. She loved to play, she loved to color, and at the same time, as much joy as she had, she often felt unseen or unheard.
Mm.
I had my older brother. Just very early on, he had a lot of like behavioral challenges, and it was just my mom. So he demanded a lot of her attention,
Mm.
really demanded a lot of her attention. And, so this was before we were hearing terms like autism and just different things like that. So it was really hard to kind of figure out like what was going on with him. But it took a lot of attention, and she did the best that she could. And I'm definitely didn't necessarily feel neglected.
Mm-hmm.
She always made space for me. She always sought out opportunities for me. So I knew that she loved me. I knew that she saw me in that way, but I was
Yeah.
quiet a lot because I also didn't want to take, I guess there's sometimes as children, we interpret it like we have to put it on our backs. And so, I was like, well, let me I'm the good child so that she doesn't have to worry about me. So she has time to take care of my brother, and looking back, I remember so many times where I was like, yeah, I probably needed to say something or to share something, and I would just hold it so as that I wouldn't be in the way or taking up space that was needed for someone else, which started me down the path of just doing that as a lifelong practice. Just thinking about what everybody else needed, and yes, I'm okay. I can just be okay. I can make it through. And just my school life changed. I changed schools a lot. My brother didn't. I changed the schools a lot because my mother was always looking for she believed and understood that education was the way out and the way through. So she was always researching and finding something new to put me in, um, which in retrospect, I appreciate. As a kid, constantly changing schools isn't necessarily fun. You're always the new kid. Everybody's interested in you. It's almost like you're a pet. Where'd you come from? What are you doing? How do you make friends? And these people have been friends since kindergarten because they're all staying in the same school. I was painfully shy. I wasn't super outgoing. And so that left room for people to create their own stories about me. They
Mm.
weren't necessarily bad. It's just as a kid, you want somebody to see you for you versus, whatever story that they can figure out on their own. So she was just sensitive and
Yeah.
in a lot of ways that I think I understood that people missed. And so, I talk to her a lot from time to time, go back and chat with her and remember our perspective and just seeing how it's evolved over time and how some of it is still with me.
Hey, maybe you're curious. You've heard me talking about the little girl archetypes. These are the clues that might help you begin your little girl healing journey. Take the quiz, get your results. This is big work, and I understand
But
that.
I'm able to talk myself through like, is that really what it is?
Yes.
Or you're just leaning on the story that you made up in your mind. So I've grown to be able to do that. But she was a very sweet child. My mom said, as long as she could remember, I would always pat people on the back when they coughed. I would get them things. I would rub them on the shoulder. And she said, you were just always quiet and very sweet. I didn't give her any trouble, so incidentally, as I learned as I got older, that in her naming me Althea, and I learned that Althea actually means healer.
Oh, wow.
And I said, well, who saw that coming?
But God.
I just, you know, I said, wow.
So you've said a lot, and I love already that you've made the connections of how you show up instinctively, how you showed up, the determination, the decision that you made even as a little girl. So is your brother older or younger than you?
He's just under 4 years older than me.
Okay. So you
Mhm.
came into this world with a brother who needed a lot. And even as so almost immediately, instinctively, as soon as you could think thoughts and decide how you should behave, it was based on what you saw he needed. So
Mhm.
God gave you a heart of compassion. And
Yes,
in that, you made a determination that this is how I need to be in this space, in this family. Because not only were you taking care of your brother, you were taking care of your mother
somewhat, yeah.
without that conscious choice. I mean, it wasn't a conscious conversation. Like I got to take care of mommy, but if I do less, then if I need less, she won't have to do as much.
Mhm.
So even without a conscious decision, you were the caregiver. And now you said you've noticed that as you went through life. So at what point did you notice, hey, I take care of everybody else? Because what you do now, clearly there was a pivot. So I know I'm jumping ahead, but
Mm.
at what point did you first notice I always take care of everybody else? And how did you feel when you recognize that?
I don't think initially when I realized it, I conceptualized it that way. But one of my first instance that I can recall where I recognized it was when we moved back to New Jersey, which is where we are originally from. And I started at the neighborhood school. And again, everybody was curious. And I think it was our eighth grade class, we were seated alphabetically by last name. And the young lady that sat to my left, she was a little bit older than us. I didn't realize how much older she was than us, but she had some trouble like reading out loud.
Mm,
And so when we had to do that, and she would struggle, and I'm immediately after her, and I actually have school books for like ninth grade level when we were in the eighth grade. I would
mhm.
just kind of not read as well because I didn't want her to feel bad.
Oh,
I didn't want her to feel bad. I was just like, I don't know how it feels to struggle with reading, but I know that reading out loud, it doesn't feel good when you're struggling and kids are looking at you. Um, so yeah, that is my first distinct memory of like actively choosing. I'm gonna kind of tone down
yeah. Yeah.
myself just a little bit just so that she doesn't feel bad. And I don't know if that really worked or not because I'm 12, but
Yeah.
my hope was that she wouldn't feel alone or like by herself or feeling bad. Um, So, yeah, and then growing older, of course, it shows up in relationships,
Yes.
which shouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, but it can be if you don't know how to balance. Um, if you're not adept at or very strong in taking care of yourself as well,
Hmm.
making yourself a priority because, in my youth, I didn't understand that both things could exist. I could actually take care of myself well and teach well and help the people where I was just helping the people.
Right. And
You
even
know?
in relationships, though, you think about it, you choose people that you can help or that need help
Mhm.
rather
Yep.
than being with somebody who can help you or can
Mhm.
match you and not need to be helped. So
Right. Correct.
there's that. And that's one of those stories that can be, can be a lie, especially if you constantly as a pattern end up in those kind of relationships and are on the the overgiving, losing, suffering, painful end, whatever, however it comes out, and it comes out different ways for different people. But definitely just that acknowledgement that as that pattern of being an empathetic person. I mean, for that young lady, when you read less than her, and she knew she was older than you, and everybody else knew. So you came in and you were just like, okay, I see you. And I, between, just in this space, but in a bigger picture, everybody knew her story.
Hmm.
And they had watched her struggle for years and probably have laughed at her and teased her and all of that. And you just said, this one time, I'm going to be the person that takes care of you, whether you know it or not, like you said. Again, this is what I do. So I'm sorry. I'm going
No,
completely
no, you were spot on. You were spot on. Yeah,
I created a little archetype quiz, and one of them is called a compassionate anchor. And
mm,
it's goes back to our little girl games and stuff. And I'll have you take it when we're done just to see if it comes out as that. And
okay.
four types, but one of the within the compassionate anchor, people find that they give and give and give, and then they look up and they're a little tired and resentful because I'm tired. And everybody expects that of me rather than me choosing to do it. And so they're even that. Now, if
Hmm.
that's what you're known for, maybe you had the dexterity because you moved, but in life, oh, we'll go to Althea, she'll do it. Our healer. Just expect it. Of course she will.
Hmm.
So, and then you have to, again, the boundaries and the adult behaviors around that is
Hmm.
now have already segued into.
Absolutely. And it was a journey. I mean, I have arrived. I have arrived. But it was definitely has been an interesting journey, of course, a challenging journey. It's not always easy to overcome those things that have been with you for decades. And just telling yourself, learning to narrate a different story for yourself, creating your own different truth that better serves the person that you need to be for yourself. Um,
Yes.
so I am happy in my arriving.
So you have insight. Please share with our listeners today. They might just be starting to understand. They might have just taken my No More Lies little girl quiz and have found, hey, I'm a compassionate anchor and I'm tired, I'm burnt out, I'm resenting the people around me. How can you help them start this journey, this awareness? What do they do from awareness to action? What's the first thing you did?
Well, first thing I had to do was just take ownership.
Mm,
I don't necessarily remember feeling resentful to other people because I
mhm,
recognized my exhaustion was, a child of my birth. I
mm,
made those decisions. I'm exhausted because I made the decision to do all these things for other people and then accept how much they weren't willing to do for me.
yes.
I might not have agreed with their behavior, but I stayed and I lived
Mm.
through it, and those were my choices. And so just working on identifying what was it that I needed and how do I go about doing that? And then just, one step at a time, practicing no.
Go
And
figure.
the first time you do it, you be like, I didn't die. Okay, I'm gonna try it again one more time. No, I'm not gonna be able to do that.
And you
Still,
expect, because in your mind, right, the whole world will crumble
right.
around.
It just, like it's going to be a problem. The person's going to be upset. We start telling ourselves, we're just anticipating the worst,
Yes.
things that can happen. And it's kind of how we're trained. People are always planning for the worst disaster and what's the worst that could happen. And so like in this last year, I've even started to encourage people instead of asking yourself, just start asking, well, what's the best thing that could happen? Why does nobody ever ask that? You never ask
Right.
that. We're so
Right.
much on doomsday. And most of the times the things that we imagine, they never really come to light.
Right.
It's just a fear mechanism that is kind of keeping you locked in where you are. And
Or
then,
you're bold enough to even make the attempt.
yeah. And then I think what's helpful for some people that I've worked with is finding ways to say no in their own language that are comfortable for them.
Mm,
Right. So I was at a book event. I cannot remember the author, but the moderator was Sherilyn Ifill. So she was talking about her cousin Gwen, and she said, "My cousin Gwen, She never had a problem saying no. People would ask her something and she would just look at them just as pleasant and just say, "Oh, no, I couldn't possibly." And she wouldn't say anything else. And she
Beautiful.
said the way she framed it, it was the person, you couldn't think of anything to respond to try to convince her because it's like, well, what do you say to that?
Right.
Like, what do you say to that? And I laughed and I said to the lady next to me who I did not know, and I said, I told her, I just say, they'll be like, when do you want to, could you do this? And I just say, oh, no, thank you. And
And
she
I
said, really? And I said, and they don't know what to say to that because nobody's looking for you to say, no, thank you.
right.
And
My
that's,
nephew, when he was 3 years old or less, and people wanted, he had cheeks and everybody wanted to touch him and hug him. And they would have, and he's like, no, no, thank you. At that age.
yeah,
And I did a podcast with Ruth Southall from our group.
mhm,
And the episode was called No is a Complete Sentence. And you
that's
really think
good.
about, you don't have to say anything else after that. But you have to
That's
be all right with it. And it is about the
right.
condition of your heart because you're not trying to be rude but just, yeah, I'd rather not. No, I don't want to do that. No, that doesn't work for me. So I love
And
that. That's beautiful.
yeah, my favorite word is nah.
Nah.
My son be like this.
You
Something
hear
like,
that,
Ma,
man?
can you,
Nah.
Ma, can you do? Nah. Mm-mm. That's it. Nah. Mm-mm. And he'll just look at me like, okay. He'll just leave. And then I think also what I learned recently that I've decided to adopt was having a criteria for your yes.
Mm,
If you don't understand why you want to say yes, is it a good yes? What that yes requires? Um, do you have the time to do it? Do you have the energy to do it when the actual ask has to be done? Because in the moment, you could be like, yeah, girl, I can do that. And it's 2 weeks out. And in 2 weeks, you're like,
why did I say yes?
yeah, I just, and so sometimes it's even saying, can I get back to you on that? You don't have to say yes in the moment. You can say, can I get back to you that I need to think about it? Just finding language that works for you, that's comfortable for you. If it doesn't feel good to you, you're not going to say it with confidence.
That's
And so you
good.
want your yes to be a strong yes and your no to be a strong no. And you don't necessarily owe the person an explanation. They might want one.
Mhm.
But what I do know is once you start engaging in the explanations, now you're in a negotiation. And there's a
Yeah.
good chance if you aren't strong in your no yet, you're gonna end
You
up
say,
resentful later because you're gonna end up saying yes and you're gonna be mad in 2 weeks and tired, like I really didn't want to do this. I'm exhausted. So it's do you have the time for it? Do you have the energy for it? Can you afford it? And that could be energy. It's not necessarily money. Like, is this taking me away from something I'm purposefully should be doing, but I'm over here doing this benefiting you. And now I've lost this thing that I needed to do for myself. And so, yeah, definitely developing, what makes you say no and what makes you say yes. And sometimes there are things we will do for people that we love. We're not necessarily enthusiastic, but there's something about sometimes it's the person like, now, Miss Sally,
yes, it's you.
she don't never ask nobody for nothing. And whenever you ask her for something, we gonna all show up. Everybody's going, you always have that one person around you where everybody in the world will show up for that person
That's
because they
true.
honor what she's done for them, or
Yeah.
she or he or whoever it is. And then other people is like, no, I couldn't possibly.
I'm gonna practice that one. I love that.
I know I was like, oh. And then she imitated the way she said it, and I was like, yeah, I can see. She was like, people would just be stuck. They would like, what do you say? She says it so pleasantly. She smiled when she said it. And
Mhm.
would just look at you.
So that just shifts the
And
whole
that
tone.
was it.
It's not combative, it's not negative, it's just
Hmm.
here in my space. That
Yep.
doesn't fit in, doesn't feel right. And
Yeah.
I love that you say to look at the cost and the motive, your motive for saying yes.
Hmm.
Because in the little girl healing journey, sometimes we forget to look at, I'm saying yes to feel loved. I'm saying yes to be accepted. I'm saying
Hmm.
yes because I want this person to be happy with me and tell me I did a good job because I know I'm going to do a good job because I do a good job at everything because I have to because that's what makes my little girl feel loved, seen, safe,
Right.
valued,
Hmm.
enough. The list goes on.
Exactly. Yes,
So
exactly.
even in that, to be honest with ourselves, to say, I said yes because I wanted the accolades that I expected to come from it. And then when they don't come,
And
sometimes
hopefully
they
they
do,
don't.
sometimes they don't, but mostly they don't. Then we feel that's where the people get to the place of resentment. That's where you feel some kind of way, like you've been used and not taken
Mhm.
into account. Like you said, this is a child of my birth. I love that phrase. That's powerful. So
Yeah.
thank you for that's a great illumination for
Yeah.
people to
And
just
it's
take note.
almost like entering into a contract, but the other person didn't know the terms. And
Yes.
so you're mad in your mind, they broke this contract. They didn't even say thank you, or they didn't do this. And if you told them what you were thinking, they'd be like, I had no idea that's what you wanted. You never said, you never
Easily
said.
done that. I didn't know.
Absolutely.
Unspoken boundaries. That's what Townsend and Cloud called it when I studied the
Hmm.
boundaries. And because people cross your boundaries without even knowing it.
Yeah,
Because you say it because you don't feel confident enough in it, as you said, to say it with some oomph so that they say, yes, and I expect. Or even when people don't apologize. They don't need it. They
that's a
don't
big
an
one.
apology is needed.
That's a big one. Yes. I know a lot of
But they
people that are
can't.
still waiting for apologies. And I'm like, at some point, you're going to have to release it or say it to them.
Yeah. You
I
owe
know
me an
people that
apology.
won't.
And they be looking at you like, for what?
Yeah, they've long
Very
since forgot it.
ridiculous. Yes.
Yeah. So, it's definitely a journey. It's definitely a process, but it's doable. It's just not something that necessarily happens overnight. I always tell people, like, if you've been doing the same thing for multiple decades,
Right.
you're not going to be able to drop the habit overnight. But every small step is a step towards where you want to be. And it just takes practice, and there will be setbacks, and you might accept something and be kicking yourself, but most likely the next time you'll remember that moment and you'll be like, okay, let me think this through, or let me give me some time. Don't say no on the spot. Don't say yes in the moment, in the spur of the moment. All of those things are helpful. Definitely, I firmly believe in therapy. I love my therapist. I go
Yes.
even when the issue I went to start with was long gone. Now it's just a regular part of my care. It might
Exactly.
not be anything wrong. Sometimes she'll just talk with me through an idea I have and be like, oh yeah, I could see how that worked.
Mhm.
It's not necessarily doesn't necessarily have to be a practice because you're in some kind of trauma. Sometimes you just need a neutral ear that can hear things
Right.
differently than your bestie.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And just,
Like I have
just
I do
mhm,
too. I have a therapist and I'm like, yes, it's just that point of reference, that point of external seeing you,
mhm,
and especially
mhm.
somebody who's watched you over time
Yeah, yeah. It's
with a
been
therapeutic eye.
been I think did I go there at 21? I think at 21. Yeah, so it might be 4 years now. Job trauma. I was like, oh no. I noticed my body starting to feel jittery. And I was like, I didn't know what it was. I was like, what is this? And I kept trying to like figure out, and I realized what it was. I said, oh no, I ain't living like this. And so one of my friends would always post about her after her sessions. And I just hit her and I was like, who do you go to? Send me whoever that is. And we've been rocking ever since. And she's a great support, easy to bounce things off of, very honest.
Mhm.
Um, and always gives good perspective. And so I think, we all, like I said, we always think of therapy for trauma, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that. And so I take full advantage of it. I will be seeing her on Monday.
Yes.
We always have a very productive time, and I always feel better after the conversations, more open, more aware of different things. So I think that has helped as well.
Hmm.
Um, and then, I'm also a firm believer that as you grow,
Hmm.
what you need is drawn to you because we
Yes.
all have energy that we put out. And so my most traumatic moments were definitely born in a period where I had like negative 3,000 self-esteem. And so I attracted the people that are looking for people with negative zero. They
Yeah.
knew it was like an alarm went out, the heat-seeking missile, and they knew how to find me.
Yeah.
And so I
Like,
had to
for
learn.
example, like what?
Um, so my ex-husband, where did I meet him? in teller training, bank teller training. I had left college. I hadn't finished my degree. I needed a job. I don't even know how I got in teletrain, and heard about the job, but I had gone to like the orientation and then they gave me like where to go for training. And so
Hmm.
he was in the training. I don't remember seeing him at the meeting. He told me later he saw me. And in the moment when somebody says that, you don't really think of it beyond I saw you, I remember you in the thing. But
Right.
in retrospect, in the course of the relationship, I heard it a different way.
Yes.
Saw you. And I was like,
I
but I
saw
do
you.
remember saying, I remember that. He was like, you look sad or something like that. And I was like,
Um,
but it took a long time. And I was like, yeah, predators can spot their prey.
yeah. Yeah.
They can see it, they can sense it. And so what I learned there was, okay, you got some work to do because you don't want to be on this particular block right here no more ever again. So just figuring out, how do I do the thing? So I think I know the end result. But how do I get there? I'm like 22, 23.
Right.
I'm not telling anybody what's going on, what's been happening, or anything like that. So I'm keeping secrets. So I'm isolated. Um, while I've had the same friend group since like eighth grade and all through high school, and then we went to college together, and some of us pledged together. And I literally just got out the group chat with these women. I was not talking to anybody. I felt shame. I felt like just anything. You just like, I don't want anybody to know that I'm struggling, like just all of these things. So now you're isolated, which again is perfect setup when you're in an abusive situation, whether it's mental, physical, financial. Um, Isolation, nothing good happens in isolation.
Right.
Nothing good happens in desperate situations. And so I had to figure out, okay, what do I need to do? And so the first thing was, okay, you're not a tree with deep roots. You can get up and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, let's start with that. How? Okay, now how do I get up and go? Where do I go? What do I need to do? So I'm like,
Right.
okay, figure out the financial piece, do this, do that, moved, got out on my own, myself and my son, and then just
How
started
long were you in
making
that
up
relationship?
plans.
How
Hmm.
how long were you in that relationship?
Let's see, we met in, let me see, that training, I believe was in June of 1998. Let me see, Solomon was born in 2001.
So it was a
And
minute.
then we got divorced in 2007. 2007.
Okay.
So almost a decade,
Hmm.
almost a decade. And I just started, I went to what I knew. I went to the strongest thing my mother ever gave us was our own faith practice. She didn't just pick a church. She would go visit churches, sit in them for a long time by herself, listening. What do I hear? What do I see? She loves education, so she's looking for how they teach, what kind of classes do they have. And she really emphasized for us as early as I can remember, even at like 7 or 8 years old, that you have to know for yourself. I ain't gonna be with you on that day.
Right.
You're going to have to account for yourself. And that when you go into a church or any learning environment, you need to read whatever they're talking about for yourself. And she
Right.
said, it's not necessarily that anybody is lying to you. Sometimes people have different interpretations. Sometimes
Hmm.
the message for you might be different, or they might have just made a mistake. You need to know how to read this book. You need to know how to study it. You need to understand for you. And you need to know how to pray for yourself.
That's
It's
good.
wonderful to go to the altar. It's wonderful, but you're gonna be by you need to know how to do these things for yourself. And so I leaned on that. I remembered that and I started speaking things. And so, my son and I for a little bit we had to stay with his parents because my mother was still in New Jersey. And I remember saying to myself, for whatever reason, I just said, I want to be out of here by March. Just like that. March 7th, we were moving into our own apartment.
So you were staying with your ex-husband's parents.
Mm-hmm. Can you imagine? I said,
No, I can't. That's why I was like, wait, you gotta say that out loud again. Cause I was like, okay,
yeah,
you're in an abusive
yeah.
marriage. He saw you look sad. You married him, whatever. You had your son. A decade almost goes by, and you move in with his parents.
Mm-hmm. And I'm so thankful for them. They just, for the year and a half I was there, they didn't ask me per se for anything. They adored their grandchild, of course. Solomon has cousins, and to this day, his aunts I still remember the shock on their face. And they were like, "What'd you do with Solomon?" And I was like, "He was his grandfather." And they were like, "Hold up. Our father was watching the baby?" She said, "He ain't never watch us." I said, "My father did not. He loved us. He took care of us." She said, "But I don't remember our mother ever leaving us alone with our father and going off somewhere." And I said, "Well, I
Hmm.
was just running to the store." But they were
Yeah,
like, "Okay." Yeah, I said, but
something special.
well, yeah, yes, child, they love him. And, and then just over time you realize like, okay, I'm not going to die to watch the baby. It's fine. Um, and so I was able to stay there. They didn't ask me for anything. I did whatever I could. I would cook, I would do, however I could be helpful. I didn't necessarily want to be a burden. And, but at a certain point it's like, y'all ain't my mother and daddy. I appreciate, like to this day, like they can ask me for anything.
Right,
Because
right.
you didn't have to. Yes, I had your grandchild, but I'm not necessarily a daughter. And, and his dad, Pop always has said, I don't care what happened between y'all two. You always gonna be my daughter. And you
Oh,
kind of think
yeah,
to
yeah,
this
yeah.
day, you still my daughter, right? To
That's
this
good.
day. And so I'm just very, very, very thankful for them. And, and so I realized, some things as a child, you speak them and you don't realize that there's power in them. Like I remember I was so obsessed with track. I wanted to be a track star. And I wanted to go to college on a track scholarship because I heard watching the Olympics that they
Yeah.
had gone to this university on their track scholarship. I didn't even really know what it was. But I remember saying that was probably about maybe around 9 or 10 years old. I think that's the year 84 when the Olympics were in LA.
Mhm.
And while I didn't go on a track scholarship, I did get an academic scholarship. But it took me even years after that to remember that I had said as a child, I want to go to school for free. I want to go on a scholarship. I didn't even know scholarship meant free. I just heard it on TV and was like, I want one of those too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's,
Power.
and even with that job that put me into therapy towards the end of 2021, the people that I trusted, I kept saying, I don't mean no harm. I ain't coming back here in March. It was like
March is
November.
that highlight month for you. You
I
got
don't
to think
know why it was March, but
freshman
I
year.
was like, I ain't coming back. I said, I'll go work at McDonald's. And they were like, you're not gonna work. I said, I don't got no shame. I gotta me, feed I'll be at McDonald's. Do not look for me in March. I'm not coming back. And I just kept saying it, and they just thought I was joking. And so I started applying jobs, and the job I have now, it was such a quick process considering it was for a federal job. But I think I had that first interview early January, the second one the following week. And then they
Wow.
say, this is the last thing. If you hear anything, it will come directly from HR. You won't hear from us again. And it'll be an email. I get an email. So I open the email. I'm not even thinking I'm gonna get the job. So it's the job offer. And then they give you a list of starting dates. The first starting date was Monday, February 28th.
Oh, wow.
I said, I ain't even looking at none of the dates. I didn't try to negotiate and ask for a higher thing because that would have delayed it. And I said, I'm leaving up. I said, God, you on time. Every time.
Wow.
February 28th
Wow.
was my first day at the job that I have now.
Wow.
And just having something like that practice and that belief, it helped me make it through, even on those hard days. Just those little signs like, I hear you, daughter, I hear you, and I
Yeah.
got you,
I
so
am led to ask you this. I don't know. Just you talked about faith, obviously being your part that brought you through it. Do you have an anchor scripture? I've never asked anybody this, but is there that scripture that you hold on to for life?
I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And for my business, I actually say I can do all things through naps for strengthening me, which everybody thinks is hilarious. But I'd be like, y'all better take your naps.
Right.
But yeah, just the belief that I can do all the things. If you've asked me to do it, if you put it on my heart to do it, and I trust that you're with me while I'm doing it, I can do all those things. I might be
Right.
tired sometimes. I might not be able to do them all at the same time,
Excuse me.
but it's possible.
Yes.
I don't believe he's going to give me something
More than you
that
can bear.
I just can't do. Like,
Yeah.
I don't believe he would set me up like that,
Right. Right.
you know.
I
So yeah.
mean, I love that. Thank you. Like I said, that was just Holy Spirit said, ask her that question.
Yeah.
So, as you have gone through your journey, as you are walking women through, well, people, not just women, teaching about rest and what you do now, tell us how you began that and how our viewers can find you, listeners can find you.
So honestly, I really think it started in kindergarten. And I went to a preschool, kindergarten. Well, preschool, my mother told me later I skipped kindergarten. So in preschool, I went to Holy Temple, this lovely preschool. I don't even know what part of LA we took the bus to every day because clearly I was little. And,
Mhm.
kids love recess. They love this. And I liked recess because immediately after recess, it was nap time. And I probably was the only kid in the world that did not have a fight about nap time. And they created such a beautiful environment around it. So you would come in, they would teach you how to lower your voice and be quiet. And so they would talk quietly and softly to you. You had your cot. When you laid on the cot, they would cover you with the blanket and tuck you in. They had their sweet little song and music playing. And just like, because when your mom tells you go to bed, just go to bed. There was no routine, and they had this just whole routine where you just felt, well, at least I did. I just felt so warm and cozy and covered and just like, this is nice. And I would always go to sleep. And to this day, I can go to sleep. It ain't much that's gonna keep me awake.
Yes.
They at the studio that I trained at and where I do some of my classes, they know like if I'm in a meditation, I'm not leading it. I'm in the class, I hear the first instruction and I'm out. And the next thing I hear is as you come back into your body, I didn't hear anything in between. I was asleep the whole time. And they're like, that is such a gift that you could just go to sleep like that. I said, I know, and I hope it don't never go away. But
Amen.
it was such a foundational memory and gave me such an appreciation for sleep and how to create comfortable environments
Yes.
so early. And, even that first marriage gave me an appreciation because one of the things that would happen is if there was a conflict and we had a conflict and you go to sleep like all right we done arguing you go to sleep apparently you're not supposed to go to sleep if you had an argument because he would turn on all the lights shake the bed snatch the covers off a couple times he poured water on me like it was just designed I'm going to disrupt your sleep why how can you sleep you're going to get up or I would ask like the only thing I would ask on the weekends is just don't wake me up on Saturday let me wake me up every Saturday wanted to go start errands. But it gave me a stronger appreciation to protect my space and protect my peace and to understand the value of and the importance of that. And so when I work with whoever I'm working with, a lot of it is moms. Um, I love my work with moms because
They tired.
it was yes. And so my initiative around moms is Moms Not Martyrs. It was
Mm,
God dropped that in my heart. This January will be 3 years ago, and I felt it so strongly that it almost felt like heartburn and I've never even had heartburn. It was just so, like, pulling, like, "I need you to do something over here with these moms," and, you know, that motherhood doesn't have to be martyrdom, but it's
yeah.
designed like that in this country, and then I tell everybody, I said, "Start paying attention around Mother's Day." All those lovely, heart-rending commercials, think about what they really always say.
Ching.
'Cause my mother, she did everything for me.
Yeah.
My mother sacrificed so much for me. Like, it's literally in the marketing to just reinforce that you don't need your own identity. You don't need to do things for yourself. Your whole identity is your child. I remember the outright war between moms that went to work and stay-at-home moms and all the just all of these things to just keep us in labor and keep us in stress, and just emphasizing the need to model for your daughters and your sons the difference that you want them to see versus what we saw our moms, our aunts, our grandmothers, and great grandmothers do, which was just go, 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 give everything, everything,
Yeah,
everything,
till nothing's left.
and just barely making it health wise. And so you see all of these health conditions coming because they were never going to the doctor like they were supposed to, resting like they needed to, not sleeping impacts pretty much every system in your body,
Yes.
every single one. And so I encourage modeling. I said, you might not be able to do all the things at once. If a lot of Black women have trouble sitting still, they feel lazy, and I'll just say, start with 2 minutes,
Yeah.
just 2 minutes. It might feel uncomfortable. That's okay. Growth can be uncomfortable,
Right.
and just ease into it. I said, but what I did understand about my upbringing is that my mother talked a lot about what women, in terms of physically, what we were designed to do and what we were not. And so if I
Mhm.
saw her moving furniture, she would stop and talk to me about that and say, our bodies aren't designed for this. Mommy's only doing this because I don't have any help. When you get older and you have friends and relationships, you ask for help and find somebody that can help you. And of course, what did I do? What I saw. I'm in the bedroom, bumping the dresser with my hip, like moving it.
Until it
And
moved.
the light bulb came on. It was like, okay, we can tell our kids anything we want to,
Yes.
but they model you. How many times do you see like a son sit at next to his dad and is like trying to mimic how he's drinking coffee? And little girls dress up like mommy. They're doing what, yeah, we're modeling. And I said, so they need to see you do it. And
Mm,
the daughters need to see it so that they don't repeat the cycle. The sons need to see it so that when they get married, they don't think their wives are just born to serve them.
right. Ooh, yes. Exactly.
I don't want my son, if I ever hear my son get married and his wife come telling me that mm-mm, absolutely
The
not.
stuff you already know he knows how to do, right?
Absolutely. So it becomes important. And then, you want them to stay healthy and you want them to keep the spirit and the life that they came here with. And so that's why I just believe strongly it is our number one success strategy, because without rest, first of all, you're just not going to make it, you know, or if you are, you're going to be damaged or unhealthy in some way. And so it's just important. And I think, the way the community at large, this country at large is designed around labor. And so it is something you have to actively work through because you are literally, it's an act of rebellion, right? It's an act of rebellion to stop and say,
Yes.
like they know, I 4:29 and 58 seconds, I'm out the door. Work over, phone turned off. They know if they send anything, you better re-up it in the morning because when I left here, I didn't see it. Those days are over. I'm not working late hours at my house. I'm not doing none of that. I get paid for 8 to 4:30. That's it.
And the movement, rest is resistance. That whole thing is so correlative of this. And to think of how subtle exhaustion creeps in. You don't
Yeah,
even know when you're
you don't
ill.
even
Like I had a
realize
kidney transplant and I was exhausted, all the, medical
it.
issues. But when
Yeah.
I started feeling better, I was like, I had no idea I was this tired. Now
Yeah.
I can go to sleep. Now I can take a 22-minute power nap.
Yeah.
You'd be like,
And they work.
and they work. And that was
They
the other thing I was gonna say. And when you wake up, how refreshed you feel, how much clarity you have. I mean, and again, in my healing, I had a moment where there was I had this whole job thing, it was all set up, ready to go. And then they told me a few days before the job, I didn't have it. And I was like, am I gonna go into my natural little girl response and be in a frenzy and start moving?
Mhm.
Like, no, the healing looks like practicing the healing, like you're talking about, is sitting still. And I sat still, I prayed, and I took a nap. And I woke up,
Mhm.
I was like, well, God must be protecting me from something.
Yeah, and I tell my students when I'm doing yoga and even in the meditation classes a lot, I tell them, listen to your body tells the truth. And
Mhm.
it's hard because we've been taught not to listen to our intuition, our inner voice that God gave us so that we can hear him, trusting ourselves. As a little kid, you're like, oh, they're like, no, go hug them anyway. No, go be their friend. Oh, he just hit you because he likes you.
Yeah,
Who was the first person that said that foolishness? Oh,
right.
Gosh, like so many things we have been like retrained from like how we our standard setting the way the Lord sent us here. And so, so we talk a
We
lot
knew
about
deep
that.
down inside. We always knew.
Always knew you came
We
here
were
knowing.
we had to unlearn the wrong teaching. And
Yep.
again, that's the little things I call the lies. We have to break
Mhm.
those. That
Yep.
is not true.
Hmm.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And for me, as I went on the journey, it didn't even feel like learning anything new. It started to feel like remembering.
Yes. Ooh, yeah,
I was like, no, but it feels familiar.
that's good.
Even in yoga teacher training, and we were getting all of these, it's I was like, they were like, so how are you guys feeling? I was like, I said, no, it feels familiar. I feel like I'm remembering. Like this is a period of remembering my voice, remembering the wisdom, remembering the guidance that I came here with. Like I feel like in this generation of Black women, we are relearning how to hear our own voice
Mm,
and trust it the
yeah,
first time you hear it,
yeah.
And so that is one of the main things we talk about is that your body is sending you notes all the time. They start quiet and that get bigger, bigger, bigger. And I said, I would like us to become more sensitive so that we respond that first time, that you're
Right.
so sensitive to what your body and your spirit needs that you can respond in an instant. But
Ex-
it takes a while because we're so unhealthy
Yes.
that we don't know what healthy feels like. And so, like, I've had fibroids probably since I was a teenager.
Wow.
And so in 2020, they called me after blood work and was like, you need to go to the emergency room, call the nurse on duty to get my instructions. And so I called her and I was like, huh? And she was like, yeah, the doctor left instructions and she's proposing like maybe you need a hysterectomy and some because my level was so low. And I was like, hold up, you can't just call me 8 in the morning and be like, your doctor said you need a hysterectomy. Like, but I drove myself, which again, I wouldn't live. Why would I drive
You were
myself? After
anemic.
I asked forever. And so I asked her, I said, well, what are the symptoms? Like, what is the concern? And she was like, well, one of the first ones is falling, like if you faint in head
Mm.
trauma or whatever. And that's why I'm saying, even in that moment, I drove myself to the hospital. The lady just told me, your level is so low, there's a concern of fainting and you could bust your head open. But I got in my car and drove myself to the other side of town. This wasn't even hospital by me, to the other side of, I was like,
Yeah.
why'd you do that? So they gave me the transfusion, all of that, and then I had to get like 4 iron transfusions. And I said, this is probably the first time I understood what I was supposed to feel like.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, because even my mother was like, she went through a cancer treatment. She was like, oh, you're gonna feel better after they give you that. I said, oh, it's nice, like right here. This is nice. I don't want to go back to the other thing.
I
And so,
got intravenous vitamin C, I mean, intravenous iron during my kidney stuff. And I was
yeah,
like, is this legal? I was looking around like,
you up
because I was
like,
like,
oh,
"Ooh,
yeah,
it
yeah,
feels so good." And you don't know you feel bad
don't.
till
Yeah.
after you feel good. And that, again, that's where this whole healing thing comes in. I believe we offset the lies by the truth of God's word. And I'm doing workshops with ladies, and I was like, oh, they're going to see their lies once they see the truth. God showed me that the other day, and I'm like, oh, it's not until you're in the healed space and the healing in the truth where you see the distortion of what you
Mhm.
practiced, believed, acted in, felt like,
Felt
thought
it.
like, treated yourself
Absolutely.
like.
Yeah. And I say to, the women I work with all the time, you know, because, we do what we do. We do all the things, sometimes things nobody even asks us to do. And so we talk a lot about, I'm always like, well, you've achieved so much tired and run down and exhausted.
Mm,
Imagine what you could do if you were well rested.
that's
If
good.
I did all of that with no energy, no health,
Confused.
no space, no time, delirious, brain fog, all of the things that iron and vitamin D, these, I just, but you did it.
Yeah.
What else could you do? Healthy, healed, and well rested. Like,
Hmm.
it's not rest isn't a luxury. It's a wellness practice.
That's so good.
It's a wellness practice.
A good
Without,
tagline.
without, without a doubt, without anything else, it is a wellness practice. It is mental wellness and physical and spiritual.
That's
What do you
beautiful.
do? He took these days to create the earth,
And
and then
then
did what?
rested. Even the creator of the universe rested.
Man,
Surely we, his creations, should do the same.
absolutely. All the power God got, and he took a nap.
Right.
Think I'm gonna take a nap
I'm gonna take a
because I got barely a fraction
nap.
of what he got
Of that
going on.
power.
He lay down. I said, well, he went to lay down.
Yes.
We
And
need
he
it.
created us to need that. He created our bodies to need that, our circadian
Yeah,
rhythms and all that stuff.
all of that, all of that. And you
And
see
when
how
they're
here
off,
in this country, I don't know about you, but this to me so far in my early research, this seems to be the only country that is anti-natural rhythm.
with
I
the
want to
time
go to
change and
Italy.
all that,
I want to go to Italy and be when they go on their little siesta for two
I've
hours
been,
every day.
I've
I
been
said,
to Madrid and I was like, what are they doing?
they
Nothing.
they going home to eat with their family
Oh,
and lay down.
it
I said,
was so baffling and beautiful at the same time. I
it
was
is.
like, oh, is this
It is.
how it works?
Yeah. Who
But
decided on
everything,
daylight savings time? That should not be a thing.
and see, and the grind is a trauma response. And
Mhm.
then it's a socialized trauma response. We're conditioned to go, 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 and feel shame and guilt if we want to rest, if we want to stay home and take care of our
Absolutely.
kids, if we want to take a nap, if we want to just, I need some
Absolutely.
time to myself.
If if I could burn or get rid of permanently from everybody's memory one saying, it would be twice as hard to get half of what they got. I think that phrase has damaged our people in a way that's probably incalculable.
Yeah.
To be trained from early as you can remember that you got to work twice as hard to get half of what somebody else can get, and then you do it. Why would I
And
want to
like
work
that's
twice?
the thing to do. Like
Yeah,
that's acceptable. It's unacceptable.
yeah. It's so I was like, oh, that's the one I would get rid of. I would start with that.
Mm,
Why do I even want half of what somebody else has?
right.
I want what
It's
I'm
twice
supposed to
the
have.
effort.
I want what I'm supposed to have.
Right. And not knowing, first of all, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, and everything that God has for me is already for me. And it's not my effort, it's not my striving, but it's my how do I get into alignment with my
Line.
identity, who I am
Absolutely.
in Christ, so that I can be, so I can have all things, be all things, do all things. So,
Yeah.
Gwendolyn Althea, this has been so wonderful, so amazing, such a blessing. Please just leave a parting word with our listeners who are looking to heal their little girl. And I hear the connection, but I want to hear you say it. I hear a connection that's in my mind.
What I would ask for three things. 'Cause this is how I came up with my framework, because this is what I did. I had to reflect, which is basically the work that you do, which is
Mhm.
going back and seeing what was my origin story around rest and work? Where did I get the idea that I had to always do? Where did it
Mhm.
come from? Why was it created? And there are many different answers for that depending on the person, but amongst our community, a lot of it was that is how our foremothers were raised, and it was a safety issue.
Safety, yes.
Right. A lot of what we were taught was around safety. And
Right.
so, and then I had to reframe that story. Okay, well, I heard this as a kid. This was something that they've been telling their children since probably not long after enslavement ended legally. And
Another episode.
tell a better story, understanding, and accepting like why they told that story, that it was out of love and it was out of protection. And
Mhm.
does it still work in this moment? Is what worked for them, is that really working and working for us well? And then just reclaim. Rest is your own. Like, it is not anything to be ashamed of. It is not something to feel guilty about. It is something that you need. And more so, cautioning around how the commercialization of rest.
Mm,
Anything that can be commercialized, they'll do it because they want to make money but you don't necessarily need a lot of money to rest. It's whatever you say it is. Now, it's marketed as a manicure, massages, spa days, all things that will cost you money. But, the original framing around self-care was really about community and resting so that we could help each other.
Mm,
That was the original intent around the phrase self-care. And so, in looking for that, just spending some time reflecting and trying to listen and rediscover your voice, always ask them in class, you know,
yes.
ask your spirit what it needs right now, because it's going to tell you.
Yeah.
Now, you might reject it when you first hear it because you're not used to hearing it and just saying, yes, that's the answer. Because we'll hear an answer and they'll be like, that's not it. Let me keep thinking. No,
Goes back to what you said about not trusting.
trusting it.
I say,
Yeah.
ask your little girl what she needs.
What she needs. She
Same thing. That
she
little girl,
gonna tell
this
you.
little girls need to take a nap.
She gonna tell you.
She'll feel better.
Mhm. It could be anything. She might ask for forgiveness. She might ask for a hug. She might ask for whatever it is, but ask. She gonna tell you.
Yeah. And the word tells us, be still and know
And
that I am God. In that stillness is when he can speak. He can speak
absolutely.
through the busyness, but why make him have to get our attention? Why have to be laid out because of our bodies breaking down? I'll speak from
Mm-hmm.
my personal experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's because we just run ourselves into the ground.
And it's always like this gentle whisper, and we can't hear it because we're not still and we're not quiet because we're
Right.
trying to talk,
Yeah.
trying to tell it what it is. And, as my bishop used to always say, you gotta, just like the person whoever created the computer, you have to go back to the programmer. The computer don't know what's wrong with the computer because it didn't create itself.
Yes.
So you got
Abs-
to go find the programmer to find out
Why
what
isn't
the
it
computer
working?
needs to be doing,
What does it
why
need?
it's not working.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is so beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate you. To our audience, Gwendolyn Althea has given us some key elements. Rewind, take notes if you need to start this practice, to see where you are, to reflect, to tap into your inner voice, your Holy Spirit, your little girl, to check out why your yes is a yes, even more so than why your no is a no. No is just no, because it doesn't serve you. And just know that there's no shame in it, and there's healing, and that it's resistance, and you can do it for free. If you got somewhere to sleep, you find, yeah, I can sleep standing up if I have to. I have, like on BART, on the train to work. You too, thank you. I knew
Homecoming. Homecoming. Waiting for
but
the next act, sleep standing up, waiting for the next act to come on stage.
oh, that's fun.
Oh, the
Yes.
joy of youth. I couldn't do that today, but
So if you heard anything today, please drop a comment. What resonated for you? Make sure to like, subscribe, and share with a sister that you know that needs a nap, that needs to rest, that needs permission to rest so that she can be all that she has called to be. And she can offset the lie that running herself ragged is martyrdom personified. It's not. That is not what God calls us to do. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for just taking this time to learn how to heal your little girl and to heal yourself, because that's the woman you are today. Be blessed. Thank you for watching Staci Speaks Hope. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. To schedule a free coaching call, the link is in the description.
Grown woman holding in story she needs to tell what God really wants you to do in this world. In his name, hope to break free from the shackles and the lies that have become your truth and put blinders on your eyes. You built walls around your heart. You have plugged up your ears. Get freedom to hope's what you need. It's in